there was another stupid stuff that happened this week, and I have to admit that people are latching on the wrong point here, in my opinion. I get it, but God of War Ragnarok writer Alana Pierce argues Elden Ring is not accessible to disabled players. Claims it counters disability if you have a 2-year-old. And you have people going like, oh, look at this fucking bitch. Look at this dumb bitch. What do you mean having a 2-year-old counters as a disability? Yes, that is stupid. That is stupid. But I don't think that's the most important part that from what she said. So I will address that later. Let's read this first because, yes, it is stupid. It is still stupid. She is basing her argument on some sort of Microsoft document, which makes no sense. He saw some screenshots on Twitter the other day. I don't think I have them on tab, but it is silly. It is extremely silly. Noted video game personality, Eleanor Pierce is adding her voice to the chorus of critics who believes the core fundamentals of FromSoft's difficult video game design philosophy are somehow unfair and restrictive to disabled individuals. I watched the video. She's not making a point, actually. She's trying to, but she's not making any point. Because she doesn't give any meaningful example of how the game is restrictive to disabled individuals. And that should be one of the main arguments. I'm not saying it's not, I have no idea. She doesn't have an argument, so we have to address that. And there's no, yeah. You thought she had the baby, come on now. Come on now. I have this video here, stopped at a specific time frame. We will watch that later. First, we're reading this. Pierce, who prior to her current position as a writer for Sony's Santa Monica studio, Red Flag, had notable stints as a YouTuber, IGN editor, and Rooster Teeth employee. Red Flags all along. Offered up her hot take in a video uploaded to her personal YouTube channel, titled Elden Ring DLC is too hard. It's not. Pierce's main point was not the call for a reduction of the game's difficulty, I assume, but to share her opinion as to why do you think it would be great if disabled players could play Elden Ring. Sure, why not? Sure, why not? Accessibility options are nice, okay? Like colorblind modes or subtitles. Hey, sometimes need subtitles too, you know? It's way easier to read than to listen, depending on the voice acting. That's cool. That's cool. That was not her point. We will get to that. Following a brief explanation of her general thoughts on the game's recently released Shadows of the Erdtree DLC, Pierce eventually posited it has been brought up various times across various mediums by various people that Elden Ring, or FromSoft games in general, are not particularly accessible to disabled players. But how? She doesn't explain. The only example she gives is, imagine you have a 2-year-old kid and you cannot pause the game. We have to say the obvious thing. If you're a mom, if you're a dad, and you have a little kid, it's more important than your game, okay? You are a full-time dad and mom, or both, or just one or the other. I don't know, I'm not inclusive enough and I don't care. And that's gonna be for the rest of your life. Unless something extremely bad happens, but that's out of the norm, obviously. Also, monsters do not respawn unless you go to a, how do I call it in here? Graces? Bonfires? I don't know too much about Souls like, I'm afraid. And you can rest there, and they won't kill you, okay? It's not perfect, but the game is meant to be played that way, I'm going to assume, because it was made that way, and it has been like that since the beginning, as far as I know. Also, you have all that invasion mechanic, so it's technically online, because you can have surprise PvP, or surprise co-op. Maybe not surprise co-op, but I think it's understandable what I'm trying to say here. And not every game is for everyone. Imagine my shock. Imagine my shock. Elaborating on her argument, the God of War Ragnarok team writer asserted, when I'm asking for accessibility, I'm not actually asking for an easy mode. Remember this sentence. This is a really important sentence. Because she doesn't know what she's talking about. and she's going to actually argue for an easier mode. In a strange way, but she's actually arguing for this. That isn't the intent. Here's the thing I want to spell out where accessibility is concerned. People who are disabled. There are multiple kinds of disabilities, especially where gaming is concerned. There are long-term disabilities, there are situational disabilities, there are temporary disabilities. It counts as a disability where a video game like Elden Ring is concerned if you have a kid. No, it's not. Stop being a clown. Look, it's the year of the Lord, current year, and we have been playing online games for decades. They don't have pause buttons, what do you mean? You cannot pause League of Legends, what do you mean? I guess they're not inclusive enough for the disabled peoples. Too bad, too bad. You have 2-year-old, you're trying to play Elden Ring, you can pause. You don't have to play Elden Ring, or you can play Elden Ring when the kid is sleeping. Yes, you're a mom now. The kid is more important than Elden Ring. Imagine. Oh, we're so entitled. What the hell? There's a situational disability. No, it's not. That you have where the game not having the option for you to be able to pause, for example, is a hindrance for your particular disability, a situational disability. Some people said it before. I don't know if it works. I'm going to assume it does. You can open the task manager and pause the process, and it works as a pause button. It's not elegant, but it works. There are probably mods for a pause button too, I'm going to assume. You may need to pause to stop your kid from putting a fork into a socket or a power outlet. Sure, if that was happening, I don't think pausing the game would be my priority in that moment. I don't know what to tell you, that seems a little bit silly. She doesn't seem to be a mom, so I guess it checks out. And there are temporary disabilities, like you break your wrist, you sprain your wrist, where you'll temporarily have trouble playing video games. Yes, that's gonna happen. Oh, you lost an arm. Maybe you cannot be a baseball player anymore. It sucks, but it happens. She continued. You will need something to help you press certain buttons if you're playing Elden Ring. I'm going to assume that you will have bigger problems than not being able to play Elden Ring if that was the case. And look, I'm not saying... I'm not laughing at disabled people, but you have to be real with me. Let's say, if you're blind, you're probably not playing Elden Ring, because I don't think it's really possible. I mean, it's plausible, right? It's probably not a good experience. You can do it, but it's gonna be rough. Imagine being blind fucking sucks. It do be like that. Oh, I don't have arms. Well, fuck me. Yes, they could come up with a special controller for your feet. Or there was that chick that was playing... it was both Palworld and Elden Ring with a special helmet she made, I think. And she was controlling the game with her brain. That was cool as fuck, not gonna lie. That was really cool. Obviously, that is not the norm, but that is a thing that exists, I guess. But building her case, Pierce added, as for the third category of disabilities, long-term people who have long-term disabilities, I have tendinitis in both of my wrists from playing too many video games. Unironically, that is a thing from tapping too much. I don't think that is true. I'm not saying she doesn't have this issue. I don't think that is from playing too many video games. I've played video games for many years. I've played a lot of video games. Never happened to me. Never had a problem. Not even. I was playing the Wii non-stop. And that thing was actually dangerous. Yeah, it's probably not from playing games. Probably an underlying issue. The gamers. They're so injured by the games. That means any rapid button mashing in any game I'm going to have a lot of trouble with, unless there are accessibility options that prevent that. Okay. I'm going to say that is still within reason, not gonna lie. It's part of what I worked on in God of War Ragnarok. That's part of why I made an accessibility award show to highlight this particular thing. She's going to shoot her foot later. Here's the thing about accessibility in Elden Ring. Where any of those things are concerned, she then asserted. I think there's a misunderstanding that people think disabled gamers, or whoever else, want an easy mode. Sure, that's not the case. It's the appeal of Elden Ring being really hard. It's also appealing to people with disabilities. Imagine my shock. Human people are still human people. Wow. But if you don't have hands, you're gonna have some trouble. At least. They want to play the extremely hard game that's very hard for them to beat. Okay, sure. They're not asking you to give them an easy mode and make it easy for them to get through. They're asking for a version of the game that can be played with their particular disabilities so they can still enjoy really hard games as well. Okay! Which disabilities? What's their actual problem here? I don't understand! You're not giving me any examples! The only example that she tried to give was the pause button, and it's a really bad one at that. If you're telling me exactly just a simple example, okay, of an actual disabled person that might have trouble playing this game, I can't believe it! Why wouldn't I? Sure, there are disabled people that want to play games, but you're not giving me arguments! That is the problem here! You made a 17-minute video that doesn't have a point! And look at me, speaking for hours on end without making a point, but at least I'm trying to be funny. I'm not pulling stuff out from my ass. I'm not a magician. Yet. Putting forth a possible solution to the disability/accessibility discourse, Pierce opined that in exchange for adding certain accessibility toggles, what if you just get a screen at the end with the credits that shows exactly how you played it, what options you had on or off? In my head, this will alleviate a lot of that discourse. And the example she gives in the video is like using ashes, that's the summons in the game. And like, okay, but that's not an accessibility option. That is a game mechanic. Yes, you can choose to ignore it, but that is a game mechanic. What the hell? That's why people think you're asking for an easy mode, and that's why you are actually asking for an easy mode, because you don't know what you're talking about. Drawing her thoughts on the topic to a close, Pierce ultimately made it clear that her demands for accessibility were not demands for the game's difficulty to be lowered. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Happens to the best of us. And in her opinion, any non-disabled individual complaining about Elden Ring's brutal challenging nature simply needs to get good. The gamers are the ones just saying it's too damn hard, she noted, referencing the numerous bad reviews left on various platforms by players who found the DLC to be particularly harrowing. I covered this the other day. I still think it's stupid. If it's difficult, what did you expect? If it's poorly designed, sure, that's like an actual argument. I'm not going to criticize you for that. It's fair. I don't know. Once again, I don't know too much about the game. For any of those people who do not have accessibility specific issues, you just gotta explore more, dude. You can do it. I think you're being impatient. I think you can do it. She's probably right. Interact with the game. I always say that. I'd love to see them have more accessibility options, concluded Pierce. I would not like to see them make the games easier or less challenging. But it's a difficult balance to strike, obviously. Once again, she doesn't give examples. And it's extremely funny here too. Next article. Quadriplegic Twitch streamer Rocky No Hands beats Elden Ring using no magic, armor, summoning, or hands. Maybe she was wrong all along. Well, let's get to the video. It's really funny.
First, Shadow of the Erd Tree tells you what you need to do to get good. And I think really, it just requires patience. You may be familiar with scatter tree fragments. I'll keep this quick in case you literally are familiar, but basically, this is effectively a means of an accessibility feature that exists inside of Shadow of the Erd Tree.
This is an accessibility means inside of the DLC. But now, let's see the effects of this. This is not accessibility. This is an item. This is in-game mechanics that you can choose to ignore, but this is not accessibility.
because it is optional, and I love that they've done this.
It's optional. Something being optional doesn't mean it's an accessibility option. Look, if I'm playing Monster Hunter because I know Monster Hunter, and I choose to not use armor, that doesn't mean that the armor is an accessibility option. It's an item, it's an in-game mechanic. You get defense from that, you get armor skills. It doesn't make any sense. This is not as big. This doesn't have as big as a effect. Still, comparable.
So, Scattertree Fragment is a new upgrade material in Elden Ring, debuting in the Shadow of Erdtree DLC. Scattertree Fragments are optional consumables that can be used to enhance simultaneously offensive and defensive capabilities at any.
Consumable items. You can use them to increase offensive and defensive capabilities permanently for the DLC. She said that before this. That's not an accessibility option. And if it was, even if it was, this renders your... I don't want to make the game easier, just void. Because if you go out of your way, in an unintended way, with an quote-unquote accessibility option, to increase your stats, yes, you're making the game easier. You deal more damage, and you take less damage. Yes, that is making the game easier. And let's be real, we make games easier for ourselves all the time. Oh, I'm going to level up. Oh, I'm going to upgrade my gear. Oh, I'm going to get new techniques. Shit, that happens. That's the essence of an RPG. But do not act as if in-game mechanics are in any way, shape, or form accessibility options. They're not, right? Let's say Dragon Quest, for example. You have stat seeds to increase your stats, obviously. That's not an accessibility option. That is an item. That is an in-game mechanic. You can choose to not use it, obviously, but it's there. It is a thing. It exists. It's just, it is just so tiresome. Jesus Christ. And it's fine if you don't want to use them. I'm not going to be like, yes, you must use this because you must play this game correctly. I don't care, but do not act like game mechanics are accessibility options. They are in the game for a reason. And yes, this makes the game a little bit easier, and that's fine. It is an in-game mechanic. She's arguing against herself, and she's losing on both sides. It is impressive.